This is the most craziest thing I have ever seen in my life. In this video, we will investigate the darkest moments in TV history. On June 2018, at around 6 p.m., a group of around 15 teenagers decided to swim in the Miriam River in Bacau, Brazil. They were celebrating the end of the school year, and having fun in the river was part of their tradition. But this time, it would be different. After some time swimming, they realized that one of their friends, 13-year-old Gia Oliveira, had disappeared underwater and hadn't responded. The kids started to panic and immediately started searching for her, screaming for help. Fortunately, there were people nearby who heard their cries and came to help them. Unfortunately, all their attempts to find Raya were unsuccessful, and she did not reappear on the surface of the water. What happened to the girl? Did she just go under and decide to play a trick on them, or was there something else going on? With each minute that passed without her reappearing, everyone feared the worst, that she had drowned. A few days after the event, her body was still nowhere to be found, and the authorities had changed the search from rescue to recovery. But before we move further, do like and subscribe so you don't miss such kind of shocking videos. After the teenagers had been swimming for a while, they felt it was time to go home. However, they soon realized that one of them was missing, and immediately they began shouting for help. Although the other people who were present at the scene were unable to find Raya, they immediately called the police and the fire department. Divers and soldiers searched everywhere for her, but there was no sign of her anywhere. The locals also joined in on the search efforts, but unfortunately, none of them could find Raya. The only thing they found was her backpack floating in the water. While the search for Raya continued, two of the other people who were with her when she disappeared, Ursula and Sabina, had to be taken to the hospital. They both experienced breathing difficulties and seemed to be unconscious. When medical personnel arrived at the scene, Ursula was airlifted to the nearest hospital because her condition was more critical than Sabina's. She was diagnosed with pulmonary edema and had to undergo emergency surgery. Sabina, on the other hand, although in a bad state, was able to make a full recovery after receiving treatment at the local hospital. Ursula was placed on a ventilator to assist her in breathing, and doctors performed a procedure known as intermittent mandatory ventilation on her. This involves manually inflating the patient's lungs with air in order to keep them from collapsing. After the incident, Sabina was released from the hospital and returned home. However, when the police went to question her, she became violent and kicked an officer, prompting them to take her into custody again. She was then charged with trespassing for being in a restricted area and assaulting an officer for kicking the police officer. After being questioned, she was once again released and is now living with her grandmother. But how did she end up in the hospital in the first place? According to the teenager, she and the others were swimming when Raya suddenly screamed and pointed to the right side of the river. As Ursula went to see what had happened, Sabina lost consciousness. The last thing she remembered was seeing Raya struggling in the water. The rest of the details are unclear. Although Raya's body was never found, Sabina believes that her friend must have drowned, and that her body is somewhere at the bottom of the river. There are several theories as to what happened to Raya, but perhaps the most popular one is that she was intoxicated. Her family, however, refutes these claims, stating that she would never have been allowed to go on the trip if she had been drinking. But why were the Erickson twins even in that place? Raya's family wonders this as well. They believe that since Raya was not involved in any kind of trouble and was a quiet and introverted student, she would not have gone to that party if she had not been with her friends. As previously stated, divers searched everywhere for Raya, but her body was nowhere to be found. It seems incredible that after all those searches, not a single trace of the girl was found. Some people who knew the Erickson twins suggested that they had used drugs, and that this could explain why the girls were in the middle of the river, and why only one of them had been rescued. This theory is supported by the fact that when Ursula regained consciousness in the hospital, she kept asking for Raya and Sabina, which suggests that she may have been with them and knew what had happened. This assumption was later refuted by the tests performed on the twins at the hospital, which revealed that they were sober. Raya's mother, Rachel, took to social media to express her grief over the loss of her daughter. In the post, she stated that she hoped that the authorities would find whoever was responsible for her death and bring them to justice. The woman also denied rumors that her daughter had been drinking or taking drugs and insisted that she would never have allowed her to go on the trip if she had been. At first, many people believed that the twins had taken drugs and that they were to blame for what happened to Raya. However, after learning that they were sober, they began to speculate that the twins had suffered a psychotic episode and that this could explain their behavior. But there is another aspect to this story. When the Erickson twins were brought to the hospital, they behaved strangely. This led doctors to suspect that they had used drugs, but toxicology tests later proved this assumption wrong. Now people are wondering if they are really innocent. Then why were they in that place? Perhaps they went there to have fun, but things got out of control, and the twins panicked, causing the tragedy. Maybe they tried to save Raya, but couldn't. That would explain why they were in the middle of the river, and why only one of them was rescued. But why did they leave Sabina behind? Was it because they thought she was dead, or did they think she would be better off alone? We may never know the answer to that question. Another possibility is that the twins didn't mean to harm anyone. Maybe they just wanted to take a dip in the river and swim a few laps. However, Raya was pulled under the water, and the twins were unable to save her. This would explain why they were in the middle of the river, and why only one of them was rescued. Maybe they were trying to keep Raya's body afloat, but the current was too strong and they were unable to hold on to her. Maybe they tried to resuscitate her, but were unsuccessful. Or maybe they simply didn't know what to do and panicked. Whatever the case, it seems clear that the twins did not intend for this to happen. However, after the incident, they exhibited strange behaviors, which raised suspicion and speculation among the locals and the media. In fact, the case was investigated for over a year before investigators concluded that the Erickson twins were not responsible for Raya's death. They had no criminal record and had always been well-behaved students. Their parents were shocked by their children's behavior and insisted that they had never taken drugs or displayed any signs of mental illness. They believed that their daughters had simply made a terrible mistake and were now paying the price for it. After the investigation was closed, the twins were free to go. However, they decided to stay in town and help the family with the search for Raya's body. They also apologized to Raya's family for their role in the tragedy and promised to never forget her. Now let's get back to our reality. Where are they now? What happened after this terrible event? One of the most concerning aspects of this case is the lack of answers. We still don't know exactly what happened to Raya and why she disappeared. This has left her family and friends with many unanswered questions and a sense of uncertainty. The fact that her body was never recovered has only added to the mystery surrounding her disappearance. Since the incident, the twins have received a lot of attention from the media and the public. Many people still believe that they are guilty of Raya's death, despite the official investigation concluding otherwise. This has made it difficult for them to move on with their lives and has caused them a great deal of emotional distress. The twins have tried their best to cope with the tragedy. They have spoken out against rumors and speculation, and they have done their best to honor the memory of their friend. They have also reached out to Raya's family to offer their condolences and support. Despite all this, the twins are still struggling to come to terms with what happened. They will likely never forget what happened that day, and the guilt they feel over losing their friend will likely stay with them for a long time. In conclusion, the case of the Erickson twins is a tragic one. The loss of Raya is a devastating tragedy, and the twins' subsequent struggles to cope with the aftermath have been heartbreaking to witness. While the official investigation may have concluded, the emotional toll on the twins and the unanswered questions surrounding the case will continue to haunt them. Only time will tell if they can find peace. Thanks for watching.